Alright, so this next video I'm going to make is on how to do wheelies. I've been asked by a few people on how to do it, so I'm going to try and cover it the best I can. If you're already an expert on it, then this video will seem kind of ridiculous to you, but you got to remember at one point you didn't know how to do them either. So I'm going to try to cover all the aspects of what goes on with it, or at least the basics, so that people have an idea of what they're getting themselves into when they start trying them. So first of all, you need to cover the safety and the risks. You can really hurt yourself bad, especially if you lose control of the ATV and get hit by another rider, something like that. You could hurt yourself really bad, so you need to take that into consideration when it comes to your skill level, how long you've been riding, what kind of ATV you're riding, the area, if you're familiar with it, the last time you rode, if you rode recently. All those things you need to take into account for, and you need to use some common sense when you decide that you want to attempt to do something like this. Quads are very expensive to fix, so if you break it, then you need to have the money set aside to fix it if you plan to keep riding. So some of the things that you need to consider, whether or not the quad or ATV has a clutch, the torque of the quad, the wheelbase of the quad, that's the distance between the front and rear tire. The gearing, if it's geared low, it'll be easier to wheelie versus if it's geared high, it'll be harder. The quad weight, the heavier the quad, the harder it is to wheelie, assuming that the power is the same ratio to the weight. Traction, that includes the tires on the quad and the surface that you're riding on. Balance, that's your balance. If you don't have good balance, you're probably not going to be very good at doing wheelies. And the balance of the ATV. Obviously, like a draggy ATV, it's going to be much harder to consistently hold a wheelie with it because it's stretched out so long. Rider weight. The heavier the rider is, with the shorter the wheelbase is, the easier it's going to be for that person to do wheelies, because they can just toss their weight back and the quad will just come right up. And then the speed at which you do the wheelie. Generally, the faster you do the wheelie, the lower the front end is going to be. So when you're doing really high speed wheelies, at 50 or 60 miles an hour for an ATV, that's really fast. So generally the front of the ATV is going to be lower because you're going to have more wind resistance to help hold the ATV up. So basically, here's the layout. I know I'm an awesome artist. The higher up the ATV is, then basically the slower you're going to be going. So if you want to ride a really slow wheelie, you're going to want to pop it up all of a sudden and then keep it as high as possible. That also depends on how far back you're sitting. Generally, when I do wheelies, I stand on the grab bar because that gets the weight further back. The reason I started doing that was because I just felt more comfortable doing it. Therefore, like if I was in a situation where I needed to get off the quad, it'd be a lot easier than if I were sitting on it. So that's just my preference. I think it looks cooler. I think it's easier to control. I think it's easier to pop up the wheelie. It's easier to hold it longer. And it's also easier to turn. Believe it or not, when you're doing a wheelie and only have the rear two wheels on the ground, there is a way to turn, and I'll explain that later in the video. So basically the process to get comfortable with it, I'm going to show you guys a trick in this video on my ATV of, I actually thought of it while washing it. So I'm going to show you that. But basically is when you ask the question how to do a wheelie, well, everybody usually answers with find the balance point. The balance point is just where the quad is versus where you are. And the first time you hit the balance point, it'll be very obvious to you and it'll probably freak you out a little bit. The way to get over it is with a trick that I'm about to show you right now. So just stand the quad up on the grab bar. Make sure your fuel's off so you don't lose all of it. And then do this right here. It's really simple to do and it'll get you over your fear pretty quick. All you're going to do is stand on the grab bar. Make sure you're either pressing the rear brake or have the quad in gear, and then you're going to push it forward slowly and you're going to try and find the balance point and hold it there as long as possible. Basically just like that. Just do that over and over and over again. Once again, it's going to sound ridiculous to people that know how to do wheelies, but for somebody that's uncomfortable with having two wheels off the ground, it's a really easy, really safe way to get used to it. Just keep repeating that process over and over and over again. I'll show you guys one more time. And that's all you got to do. I stick my foot out because it helps with the balance. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But here's some of the damage from doing wheelies. This grab bar is supposed to come out about like that. You can see all the wear marks from doing wheelies. Scratched up the plastic. It's really, really hard on your axle bearings and your swing arm bearings, so they're going to wear out faster. Your front brakes do not work when you're doing wheelies. So out of panic, most newer riders will grab the front brakes. Well, when the front wheels aren't on the ground, front brakes don't do any good. So you need to become really familiar with the rear brake and with the clutch. Because if you're cruising along and you need to stop all of a sudden, for whatever reason, if you don't have your foot near the rear brake, you need to grab the clutch or jump off the ATV. It is not a matter of if you're going to hurt yourself, it's a matter of when. You're going to twist ankles, you're going to skin knees, you're going to do all that kind of stuff. Hopefully you won't break any bones and hopefully you won't kill yourself. But it is something that does involve some risk. But it is extremely, extremely fun. And if it weren't for wheelies, I probably wouldn't even own an ATV, to be honest with you. So it's something that you need to slowly become comfortable with. Don't jump on an ATV, especially one that's not yours, and try to ride wheelies, because you are going to hurt yourself and you are going to destroy the machine. Another thing to consider is if it's on a 2-stroke or 4-stroke. On a 4-stroke ATV, you need to be familiar with the engine, because all of the oil will go to the back of the engine when you're doing a wheelie. So if your oil pickup tube is in the front, then you need to either add extra oil or not do wheelies that long with the quad, because none of that oil can get circulated up into the valves to lubricate them. So all the oil's sitting back here, the oil pickup tube is up here, and there's nothing that can be done about that. So you're going to ride a wheelie for a little while, and then the whole time your engine's starving for oil. On a 2-stroke, you don't have that problem. However, with a 2-stroke, in my opinion, the disadvantage with doing wheelies is you don't have as much torque. 2-stroke engines are not built for torque. They're built for raw high RPM horsepower, and that's it. So this is a 4-mil stroker, so it's a little bit easier for me just to pop it up a little bit. And I do have stock size carbs on there, which is a little bit better for low end than the bigger carbs. So that, with a combination of going down one tooth in the front on this quad, it makes it much, much easier to wheelie. Actually so easy to wheelie to where I'm actually going up 2 teeth, so that'll be one higher than stock in an upcoming video as soon as I order the sprockets and chain. So as far as steering with ATV, this is for after you've gotten over the balance point and you've safely gone through everything you need to go through to be comfortable with riding a wheelie long enough to where you need to worry about steering. Basically that goes off of tire pressure in your rear 2 tires. If you lean to one side, let's say you have 2 pounds in each, lean to one side, this tire is going to squish down a little bit so that you'll turn that way. Lean to this side, this tire is going to squish down a little bit so you'll turn that way. It is a very slow process to learn how to steer. On mine it's extremely difficult because my rear tires are 6-ply, so I could have no air in them and still extremely difficult to steer. So there are some tips for how to do wheelies. I'm going to try to get some better footage of my clutch and throttle hand, but it's really hard to do with a steady camera. But the clutch release is extremely fast, not quite as fast as if you were drag racing, but it pops out pretty quick. And it's a matter of balancing the throttle with the clutch at the same time. So you need to find out the RPM that you need to lift the quad up, and then the rate that you release the clutch. So it's just a matter of doing it over and over and over again. Just slowly lift up the front end a little bit, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. If you do it on a soft surface like sand, or even like tall weeds or grass or something like that, then if you fall off, you're probably not going to hurt yourself. That's another thing with doing slow wheelies, is if you're only creeping along at 2 or 3 miles an hour, then you could probably just push the quad back down when you're walking behind it. So when you try them, start off with the slow wheelies and then do the fast ones later on. Your injuries are a lot less when you fall off doing a slow wheelie versus doing a fast wheelie. So if you have anything to add, feel free. Try to keep all the comments positive. I'm just trying to help out new people that want to learn how to do this. And I'm hoping that it'll save people from getting hurt or getting discouraged if they're not able to do it right away. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks.
Is that thing a diesel? Is that a diesel? I said, is that a diesel? Yeah. Diesel 4-stroke.